Welcome to the Millionaire University Podcast. I'm your host, Brien Gearin, with you today. And on this edition of the MU Pod, I am joined by my new friend, Brian Luebben. He is the founder of Action Academy, and he quit his job to travel the world. The end. Here we go. All right. Well, Brian, there's your intro. You're going to do much better than me. But first of all, man, welcome to the show.
What's up, man? Thanks for having me. It's going to be a buy one, get one free Brian special. So it's going to be a good time, man. So guys, I did what every single person that's listening to this podcast is doing, right? Same thing. I just took a small lump sum inheritance for my family of $10 million and through a lot of hard work, turned it into $9 million while traveling around the world. Unfortunately not. I just had, my whole shtick is, yes, I was a corporate guy, B2B sales rep, making $250,000 a year. So when I like to say I help people replace corporate with cash flow, I'm not talking $40,000 a year. I'm talking like people that come to me, they're like, yo, I am a big four accountant. I make $300,000 a year. I'm a data engineer. I make 160. I'm a VP of sales. I'm a systems engineer. I make big bucks. Buying a rental property a year ain't cutting it for me anymore, brother. Like, how do I get out of my job in any meaningful amount of time? And so that's what I'm really good at, is helping people replace big ol' amounts of corporate with big ol' amounts of cash flow. So that's what I did in 2022. I made it to the top of the Fortune 500 company. I was number 8 out of 5,079 sales reps. I say that because people were like, I was in corporate. I was actually at the top of corporate. They were grooming me to become the VP of sales, and I did not like the climb up that mountain, didn't like the view at the top. And so I did the next best logical thing, which is plan my escape. And that I did. In March of 2022, I was able to leave that job, replacing $20,000 a month in cash flow. I don't like to say passive income as much as I like to say cash flow. Key distinction there that we can hit on later in this show. And then I ended up quitting that job. And I went to travel full-time around the world for 8 months, which is every normal person does in their life. So essentially, I accomplished everyone's life dream that's listening to this, that's sitting in a cubicle, and they're asking 2 questions. Number 1, how the hell can I have more fun? And number 2, there's got to be more to my life than what I'm doing today in this job. And if I were given complete autonomy and freedom of my schedule, I could be a better dad, be a better mom, be a better partner to my significant other. I could be a better parent. I could be a better friend. I could be a better human in the world. And so I like to tell people, if you want to travel the world, or if you want to just travel to pick your kids up from school, that is what I help people do. So that is me. Thanks for coming, guys. It was a great
pod.
Yeah,
no, this is great. Thanks for stopping by, guys. This is all we had, Brian. It's been amazing. No, just kidding.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's dive in here, because I love this journey, because I did something similar. Not similar. I did not make it to the top of a Fortune 500 company, but I was the guy sitting in that cubicle at one time being like, what the hell am I doing? Like this, correct. I am not doing the next 40 years of my life this way. Heck no. So you said you got to the top of this big company. You fought your way through corporate. You're sitting there at the top of the mountain. You hated the view. What was wrong with that view? Why, I think a lot of people might be thinking, hey, you're making a ton of money, you got security, blah, 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 blah. Why'd you hate it?
Dude, super important thing that you just said there. Security. So the quality of your life is directly determined by the amounts of uncertainty that you are able to comfortably live with. So security and the life of your dreams do not exist in the same sentence. Period, full stop, bar none. If you take one thing away from the podcast, coming out the gate, 3 minutes, 59 seconds in, that is what you need to do. If you can just make one small mental shift in your brain, and that would be, I need to become more comfortable with discomfort, you will accomplish everything in your life, right? So I had security, of course. And I was shadowing my vice president of sales, my boss's boss, and I was watching his day, I was watching his week, and I did not like what I saw. I was like, this guy is going on Zoom calls back to back, 15-minute increments. This guy's not seeing his daughters grow up. This guy is not healthy. This guy does not live a lifestyle that I aspire to live. And what do they do when they get you up to that level? I was making $250,000 a year. Up to his point, maybe he was making $350,000, $400,000, but a lot of it's stock options, right? Because they want to keep you in the company, and they're like a 3-year vest. And everybody that's listening to this podcast knows what vested options are for the most part. And so yeah, I just was like, if I work really hard over the next 5 years, that's going to be me. So look at your boss's boss, and that's a good way to know if you don't have enough pain yet to make a change, that will give you enough pain. Flip side of that, if you look at your boss's boss and you're like, dude, this is God's gift to freaking corporate. Like, I love this guy's life. Like, then go for it. But I doubt that that's the case if you're listening to the podcast.
Absolutely. So you're sitting there, you don't like the view, you're like, I gotta get out of here.
Mhm.
What, you pulled the ripcord, you went and traveled the world for 8 months. What was the plan? Like, I think a lot of people, especially if you're in the W-2 world, you're like, I gotta have a plan. I gotta have a plan. It feels like maybe you didn't have one, but then you formulated one while traveling the world. Fill me in there. Like, what was your first move to being like, okay, I'm in charge. This is my world. This is my life. How do I go make money?
Flip flop, actually. That is the number one piece of advice that I give to people is to not do that. Do not do that. do not pass go, collect $200. Actually, there's a joke in that. Somebody said that life is literally like Monopoly. You just pass go and collect your $200 over and over again and just try to stay out of jail. Like, so that's life. And then you die.
Yeah.
But no, so for me, it's quite the opposite. So I got this DM the other day from this gentleman, and he goes, I'm 38 years old, comfortable job, highly paid professional, 4-year-old son, wife, mortgage. How do I leave without incurring this massive level of risk, right? So risk is this thing that's always going to exist. You cannot change the amount of risk. You can change your ability to handle the risk and to mitigate the risk. But let's not sugarcoat it. Going from working from somebody else to your own thing, there's a period there where it is quite risky, especially that first year when you don't know what you're doing. There's a few tweaks that you guys can make proactively before you make the jump. Because how many people have we met in a hostel or traveling that just said, oh man, I'm taking a gap year. Oh man, I quit my job, sold everything, got $60,000 in the bank, and now I'm traveling around the world. Cool. Good, not great. Because why? Because they're going to come back to that job. And now they're going to hate it even more because they've had a taste for what freedom is. Don't want to do that. It's like going to a steakhouse and then you have to go back to McDonald's for every single meal after that. And now you know what fine dining tastes like. You don't want to do that. Mm-hmm. So 3 levels of clarity that you begin with. Super important. Cannot skip it. This is the step. Step number 1 is directional clarity. It's directional, sequential, tactical clarity. All roads begin and end with clarity. It's the GPS that you set whereby you know the destination for what the heck you want and where the heck you're going. Directional clarity is the where and the why. We do not start with the how. So important. We start with the where and we start with the why. Where am I going if life was this, if I had won the lottery tomorrow, if I had $100 million in my bank account, I had complete control and autonomy over my schedule, over my life, over my fitness, over my faith, over my family, over my finances. What does my life look like, my dream life, in 3 years? And you write it out as if you're encountering it today. It's not, I will do this. It is, I wake up and I walk out of my balcony in Mykonos. I can feel the heat on the cobblestones as I walk out, and I can see the sun rising over the Adriatic. And I know that I have nothing to do this morning, no one to speak with. I have meetings in the afternoon for my own company that I run virtually anywhere in the world. I truly can do what I want, when I want, with who I want each and every day. Do I know how long I'm going to stay here? No, but I'm enjoying the time that I am. I wrote that down in my cubicle, and I said, this is what my life is going to be in 3 years, right? I wrote that down in, I believe, 2020, right in the peak of COVID. And so by 2022, I accomplished it in 2 years. So that's step 1, is determine your where, and you write everything down. Step number 2 is sequential clarity. So directional, sequential. Sequential is how fast? Because the strategies for you to replace $10,000 a month in passive cash flow so you can quit your job and travel the world. How many real estate podcasts have you guys heard that on, right? Every single one of them. So, and that's what most of you guys are. It's just the psychological number, like a 225 bench press, right? So the 10K a month, do you want to do that in 10 years, 5 years, 3 years, 1 year, 3 months? Wildly different strategies for you to accomplish that in a different time frame. So once we're clear on our direction and we're clear on our time frame, that is the equivalent of saying, I am in Atlanta, Georgia, and I want to go to California. I want to go to California today. Therefore, you are not riding a bicycle to California. You are not driving a car to California. You are booking a ticket to an airplane. And most people, you'd be so shocked that they're like, this is what I want in my life. By when? And they're over here riding a little tricycle, like down Route 51, trying to figure out like why they're not making progress towards their goals, right? Once you have your destination and you have how fast you want to get there, then that's when we begin to discuss the tactics. Because now we have clarity whereby we can make decisions, because strategy is not what we say yes to. Strategy is what we say no to. So every single yes that you say needs to be justified by 1,000 no's. And the higher that you get up in business, the more each yes has to be justified. So for me, 3 years, I want to travel the world, $20,000 a month, passive income, cash flow, whatever you want to call it. I want to do what I want, when I want, with who I want. Cool. And I know I want to do it in 3 years. Then it gets to a point where I just start checking away at it. I'm like, I'm going to buy real estate. That is how I am going to do it. And so I buy a house a year, which is probably what some people in here are doing. Maybe they're buying a rental property a year. I lived in one bedroom, rented the other bedrooms out. I was making $4,000 a month cash flow from that. Then I hired a mindset coach, and he goes, great job, Brian, but little slow. How could you do this faster? What if you could do it in 6 months? And I go, that is impossible. And he goes, wow, that's a fun word. Let's talk about that. Impossible. And so here, give everyone the same exercise that I had, right? So he goes, so you need $15,000 more, basically, give or take, to hit your goal. And I said, yes, sir. He goes, have other people generated $15,000 a month within 6 months? I go, yes. He goes, have people generated $150,000 within 6 months? I said, yes. So have people done 1.5 million? Yes. $15 million within 6 months. Yeah, dude. Okay. There's some Saudi guy out there that is doing this. Okay. And he goes, cool. So it's not that it's impossible. You just don't think it's possible for you. So that's where we start. And I said, something to think about. And so when I changed my brain from how do I just get this passively from real estate to how do I generate that level of cash flow while traveling around the world, that's where I was introduced to this whole online space. And so I started up my podcast, Action Academy podcast. I've talked into a mic every single day for 3 years across 41 countries and like 13 different time zones. And I said, I'm going to interview millionaires and ask them how they did it, right? And so eventually when we had that conversation with my coach, the consensus, the outcome was I ended up building a business off of my podcast. And so I was talking about masterminds that I was a member of. I was talking about coaches that I was hiring, that mindset coach in particular. And they were like, Brian, dude, we have people signing up left and right for our services. We want to give you a cut. I go, what do you mean? Why would you pay me? And they're like, no, we want to give you, it's called an affiliate. I said, well, that's interesting. How much is the affiliate? And they say 10%, $10,000 mastermind, $10,000 coach. So all of a sudden, I was making $15,000 within freaking 6 months. I can't explain. And not only has that worked for me, but that has worked for so many other people in so many different ways, shapes, forms, capacities. I'm sure you've had experiences like this before too, where you're so certain and so clear that all of a sudden the way that you get there is nowhere near the way that you planned, but you were so clear on the destination. And that's what I tell people. So directional, sequential, tactical clarity. I can almost guarantee that you will not accomplish it in the way that you think in the very beginning. So I'll pause there.
No, that's incredible. And I can speak to that personally. That is very much my journey that I'm on, where it's like, I've gotten to great places in my business. And I'm like, looking back at how I was thinking about it 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, I was like, well, that's a completely different way. How about that?
Oh, like if you would have told me years ago that I'm like, oh, I'm buying businesses now. I was like, what? Like I buy companies now. It's insane, dude. I buy like a company a quarter now. Wild.
Yeah. And I love that. I love that I had that same journey where it's like, I had to shift my mindset because it's so easy. I think 99% of people will, and I do this all the time where my mind will go, okay, that's cool. I want that. And I jump to the how, I jump to the tactical, but you have to have the right mindset and you have to have the time frame in place for you to actually get to that? Because it's so easy to just jump into the how and then get lost in the weeds, lost in the details, or lost in the
Dude,
shiny object syndrome.
so important that you say that, because that's why the order matters so much. If you start with the how, you don't have an answer. Therefore, you do not move down the path. Like, that's the boss that you cannot slay at level 1 of the game. And because you can't answer how, then you just give up. And that's where people have this shiny object syndrome, because they're like, how? But where is completely within your control. You could do that today. After listening to this podcast, don't do it while you're driving. That's not good. You're going to crash, dude. But like, do it after. Like, do it today.
Yeah. Get on the horse already. What are you waiting for? Come on.
Get out the car,
Yeah.
get on the horse.
Yeah.
Or get on the plane if you're going to California.
That's right. Because you just bought that ticket. Now you're getting there in a single day. Come on now.
Boom.
I love this. All right. So, I mean, incredible story of going from corporate to kind of a self-made man here. Now you're buying businesses. You were buying real estate. I want to get to passive income versus cash flow in a minute here, but tell us, give us more context on what you're doing on a day-to-day. Are you still buying real estate? Is buying businesses your thing? What's next? What does it all look like for Brian today?
Yeah, so I've lived a couple of different lives since that point. Believe it or not, you grow quite faster when you do it on your own, right? And it's scary that first year. That first year when I quit that job, it was not because everyone listening to this podcast wants to be a millionaire and they want to travel the world, right? And unfortunately, there was no mariachi band for either of those things for me. I was pissed. So in the future, I would like a mariachi band for $10 million a year. Please and thank you to my team that's listening to this. But no, all I had was panic attacks. I almost went to the hospital 4 times after I quit that job. It was not an easy or sexy transition. It was everyone in my life telling me how dumb I was and that I was going to fail, because everyone in my life was working a job. So if you want to be the 1%, you cannot take the advice of the 99. Something to think about. And so you have to be very, very selective with who you take advice from. And so I went through that first year really, truly living the I'm retired thing, the I'm retired life. I lived in the Greek islands for a month, Mykonos, Santorini, and Crete. I lived in Barcelona for a month. I lived in Spain. I lived in Croatia. I lived in Amsterdam. I lived in Brazil and Colombia. And then after 8 months, I came home. After kind of losing everything, man, I lost my sense of purpose, my identity, my relationship at the time. It was a very tumultuous point of my life. And something that I can say on the other side of having massive levels of change is that the friction that you feel, when you feel the friction, when you feel the resistance, that's how you know you're doing something right. If you feel comfortable, you're probably not doing the right stuff. You're probably not growing to the level that you can. Again, it's that relationship with discomfort that we talked about before, right? And so for me, I was this winner, this corporate guy I was a sales rep, so I could show results, right? And so when a winner stops winning, are they a winner anymore? Again, something to think about for everybody that's listening. And so I had to really just take a walk around the world and ask the questions like, what am I here to do? What do I want? Why am I here? Like, what is my purpose? And so that's when I realized everyone talks about passive income, but nobody talks about like passionate income. And so I wrote a book called From Passive to Passionate. It's behind me on the video for anybody watching. And it's really talking about what do you do after you hit the goal? Because if you really nail it down, like the how is not that difficult. There's so many podcasts and you've shared so many strategies yourself. Like 2 to 3 years from scratch, you can do it. I promise you. We've helped hundreds of people do it. And so for me, I was wondering about, and then in fall of 2022 was when I just was like, I'm just going to coach people for free. And so I started coaching people for free. And I did 100 free coaching calls from my podcast. And I just help people. And I was like, hey, man, you're in corporate. What are you doing? And they're like, oh, I'm doing storage, self-storage, or I've got an online business, or I'm trying to build a coaching thing, or I'm doing multifamily. And I would just help them. And I just told them what to do. And they were like, oh, dude, this is super helpful. Can I pay you? I said, no, I don't want to be a coach. And they said, okay. And then eventually I was like, well, why don't I make a course and answer all these people's questions? And so I sat down in Brazil and I was like, I'm going to make an online course. And so I spent a month making an online course, and I did. And I was like, all right, cool. Here's the course. It was halfway done. I emailed the 100 people. I was like, hey, $1,500 question mark.
Mhm.
Got this thing. Do you want it? And here's my Venmo. Here's my Cash App. I had no landing page, no LLC, no business bank account. I made $100,000 in 48 hours in Brazil.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's called leading with value. I led with so much free value that people were just kind of like, we'll just give you money, dude. And we kind of trust you to take us where we need to go. I was like, all right, cool. So long story short, from that point, I then asked the people, what do you love? What do you hate? What can I change? What can I add to the course? And they go, the course is cool, but we really like the community. Like you popped us in like the Facebook group, like we're doing deals together. Like I made some friends already. I really like it here. I said, I'm doing the wrong business. And so I switched my business from a paid course with a free community to a mastermind with that course became the 30-day onboard. And so now here we are, that launched in 2023. And now we have hundreds of members all across the United States. We have chapters popping up all across the country of Action Academy. And now we did $267 million in acquisition last year across the group. From the group members alone. The average acquisition was $797,000 for a member, with $196,000 of equity gain and $48,000 added of passive income. So I know my numbers and I love my people.
Yeah.
And now that's been my business that I run full time since that. I sold my real estate because I had these single family houses scattered across Atlanta, North Atlanta, and I just didn't want to do it anymore. And I wanted that cash to be at my safety net. So anybody that's having the risk conversation, you can mitigate that through cash. Like for me, I had 6 months when I quit my job, and now I've got probably 2 years of cash to where if everything hit the fan, I could float myself for 2 years living the life that I do today. And that's where I can really take swings at the plate. So now today I run that company. We do a few $1 million per year. And and now I buy companies and deals within the community with other members. So I've partnered on 3 businesses now. I bought a kitchen hood cleaning company. We're buying another kitchen hood cleaning company, and I'm opening up a gym franchise in Nashville. So I do about a deal or two a quarter now from the group. And so we have some really cool operators and partners. And if we do it correctly, and if they bring me a good deal, they're buying the deal with no money down, and I'm the capital in the deal. So it's a freaking blast, dude. Yeah. So.
Okay. Well, let's unpack Action Academy a bit more then, because that sounds amazing. So we got the high level here. Let's talk about it. It sounds like it's a group for people who want to invest, are you only doing deals together? Are you coaching within this group? Is this just just a collective? Give us more details on it. It sounds awesome.
Yeah, man. For me, being a guru sounds exhausting, and I just didn't want to do that. So honestly, how it started was I just had 500 multimillionaires that I'd interviewed on my podcast up to that point. And I just had this giant network. And I said, I'm just going to throw everyone into this group and then just give everyone exposure to these people. And then they're just going to be around awesome people and like a talent for the first time in their lives. That's how it began when I had like no traction. And then slowly over time, now that model is pivoted to where now it's like 400 of the people that are actually paying to be there. And still some of those original crew stayed on as mentors and coaches within the community. So now we do multifamily, mobile home parks, storage, land, business acquisition, and boutique hotels is now a new one that we do. So we cover those assets. We have multiple mentors in each one of the asset classes. And we have probably 60 to 70 people in each asset that are doing it. And so we've had people have success in each and every one of them. So like, our pitch is really simple. We just help you do things faster. Like it's true. There's no secret sauce there. You could truly figure it out on your own. We just say, hey, instead of doing 10 years of networking and mastermind events, we'll just give everything to you on a silver platter and like every person. Because to go back to the risk conversation, the reason that people don't do big deals is because 2 reasons. Number 1, they're scared of losing their money, but more importantly, they're terrified of losing other people's money. Because most people on here no, okay, if I'm buying an apartment complex, I understand that if it's $4 million, I am not going to just pay $4 million in cash. I'm going to get a loan and I will have investors, right? Real estate 101. Same thing with business. You could buy a business that is already existing 10% down, 90% financed. Like that is my primary bread and butter. That business buying is my favorite thing to do. And so either one of those you could take investors on, right? And they're terrified of losing the investors' capital. So what we do is we say, hey, like you don't know what you're doing yet, but we're going to have eyeballs on what you're doing as you go through it, teach you step by step. Here's how to look at a deal. Here's how to find a deal. Here's how to underwrite a deal. Here's how to negotiate a deal. Here's how to capital raise the deal. And here's how to conduct diligence on the deal. And we put it in front of eyeballs. And that is how you mitigate risk is you give it to the guy that's got 10 years of experience and they're like, you're missing the roof, or there's something in the sewer that you're missing, or the septic may be leaking and you're missing it. And they give you that OG expertise, right? And then you get to the point where it's in the negotiation and they help you negotiate the deal. And so for your first few deals, we say, hey, like you do the operations of the deal, find something for somebody that has money, and you're going to take a small little sliver of it. And again, stop me if I'm going too insider baseball here. But what we like to aim for in the first deal is maybe 10% equity for you. And maybe you find the deal and you bring it to the person. And now you're a small operator on the deal and you're getting to watch the show. And you could say, hey, I'm an owner of maybe a 50 unit apartment or a storage facility or something like that. But you're doing it with somebody with experience and track record. And then you just watch how they move, you watch how you learn, you build your confidence up. And then that next deal, you've really got like trench level knowledge to kind of go and be the majority owner on that next deal. And then you can really walk the walk. And so that's just what we've done over the last 2 years. And that process has worked very, very, very well. Instead of people just buying a house a year, they're popping up and doing like 300 units in a year or two. It's crazy.
Okay, so the ideal member in your community, is it someone who has absolutely no experience in business buying and they come in and they jump into your community, they learn from you and your coaches, they kind of absorb through osmosis, but now are they, I guess in this group, are there opportunities that get pitched to the group and then it's like, who wants in on this? At what levels? Or is it more of a, hey, I've got this opportunity here in my town. I just need help doing it because I've never done it.
Kind of both, because we have people in every single market now. So you'll have people that are paired up based off like capital or operating. I call it top line CEO versus bottom line CEO. So are you the person that's really good at sales, marketing, capital raising, or are you the person that's really back end systems ops, like an engineer? And so both are equally valuable. So we partner those people up all the time. And it's just like this, just chocolate and peanut butter. It makes a beautiful Reese's cup. And so there's a lot of deals and partnerships happening all the time. The average member that has success is normally somebody that is already, maybe they bought a house or two, like normally maybe bought like 4 or 5 houses. They're normally making good income. They normally have good money habits already. If somebody's got like their last bit of cash, we're not going to tell them to put it on a credit card. We're just like, save up some more. Don't do it yet. But yeah, normally it's, I would say, beginning to intermediate level of investor, to where they're like, I've dipped my toe into this and I've got capital and I'm ready to like really swing for the fences here. We've taken some beginners, but only the ones that have a really good mindset. Because what we came to realize was when we were just letting everyone in that was like brand spanking new, they just could not fathom the idea of buying a $3 million deal as their first deal. And so they just could not get past that mental roadblock. Whereas the person that's just like, I was terrified, but I didn't need to pay anyone to learn how to buy my first deal. And I bought a house. It was okay, but now I want to scale. That's more so our person. That's got a little bit of confidence, but we'll work with you if your mindset's right.
Gotcha.
We say no to a lot of people, though.
Yeah, no, I mean, you gotta have fences up, right? You gotta have the right people in, or else that can be. I know in the community world, if you let in too much of the wrong type of person, it's gonna poison the group, and everyone's gonna hate it.
The biggest thing that we do is action takers, man. It's Action Academy. We tell people it's access, accountability, and massive levels of action. We don't help with the action part. It's either you got it or you don't. We're not going to coach you out of it. We just kicked out 6 people that were on their 1-year renewal from February, and they just were not doing anything. They weren't showing up to their weekly calls. They weren't showing up to their accountability pod. They weren't showing up to any of the group Zooms, and they were just simmering. And we said, I would actually prefer to not take your money and to actually remove you from the group, because that makes it a better experience for everybody else.
Exactly. What happens on the operational side? So when you or when everybody in your community buy in on a business. Is
Mhm.
it, are you guys doing the operation side, or is part of these businesses that you're buying, they're fully operational businesses, they're running, they've got a team of people, you're just swapping out the ownership group? What does that look like for those who
Yeah.
haven't purchased a business before?
You started the business from scratch, right?
I started mine from scratch. Yep.
Yeah, I started mine from scratch too. It's difficult, bro.
Yeah.
Like
Oh yeah.
you are marketing, and we're both in the online space. It's like you are sales, you are
Hmm.
marketing, you are fulfillment, you are HR, you are tech support, you're everything. Um,
Right.
and that's what I did for a year. I did 1,000 sales calls by myself. So the reason I say that is imagine a world, ladies and gentlemen. Imagine a world, a wonderful world, where you can come in day one, and that's already been running for 5 years. They're already doing millions of dollars. They're already doing $1 million, $2 million in revenue. They're already making $600,000 in profit. And you can come in day one and say, okay, cool. This is Greg. Greg's the manager. There's 4 people working under Greg. And now it's like, there's already something moving here. And I don't have to like reinvent the wheel, right? So we say, buy businesses that are good, make them great. Don't buy a shitty business, make it good. Period. People think about it like real estate, where they're like, I'm going to buy the house in the nice area and I'm going to fix it up, blah, blah, blah. Don't do that with a business. We look for a nice, solid business. Now, the next question is, what does a nice, solid business look like, and where do I find them, right? So everyone here is probably familiar with Zillow.com. You can go to BizBuySell, BizBuySell.com. It is like the Zillow for businesses. And you can just get your feet wet looking at deals and kind of seeing how they're positioned, right? And you've got like Subway franchises on there. You have all these different like franchises and small businesses that you can find. Sometimes we have success finding them on BizBuySell, but a lot of them are off market, which means they're not listed anywhere. So what you're looking for is probably about a $1 to $2 million purchase price. Solid profit margins, probably 30% plus. So at a $2 million purchase price, you're looking at maybe a $300,000 to $400,000 to $500,000 of profit. So when you're looking at a business, it's revenue, it's profit, and then there's multiple. So businesses are sold at multiples of profit. The better the business, the higher the multiple. For example, say a business has $200,000 of profit. That means the owner takes home $200,000 at the end of the year, right? And if the business is
On top of what he's already paying himself.
on top of what he's paying himself, if the company is decent, it's a good company, average run of the mill, that company will probably sell for a 3.5 to 4 times multiple of profit, which would mean that would probably be around an $800,000 purchase price for the business. If it's a really good business, you'll start seeing 5x multiples or more. The typical is between 3 to 5x. And so what I'm looking for in a business is probably that $400,000 of profit at a 3 to 5x multiple. That's how you know it's a business that's got a few people running. You're looking for 5 to 7 years of lifespan. So this business has been up, it's been profitable for 5 years, it's growing, it's not dying. And you can come in and say, this is a service company like this company. I'll use mine as an example. We clean kitchen hoods. What the hell does that mean, right? Kitchen hood is where you see like a fry cook and you got a kitchen fryer in a commercial kitchen. And then the hood is what captures all the grease that flies up, right? It's the vent on top of the stove. And so those need to be cleaned by law. It's law to clean those. And so my company in Kansas City cleans those kitchen hoods. And so it's not rocket science to clean kitchen hoods, but my business does it better than the other businesses. And so we bought it for about $1 million. And I was like, okay, cool, we're going to buy this business. And I bought it with the partner. And my partner is the one that lives in Kansas City, and he operates the business. I was the capital of the deal. So I take a minority equity position, got about 20% equity. He's got 80%. He runs the business, bought the business with $0 down because I was the capital. That's how partnership works. Able to leave his job from that. Now he's a business owner, right? So he had the business that was already good and running, completely word of mouth. No SEO, no Google, no Facebook ads, no social media, no nothing. No sales team. So now he can come in and say, well, I'm simply going to build a sales team and we're going to double the business. Wonderful. So that's how you know those are some pretty good signs that a business is doing okay. Now, there's obviously more nuance, but that's as simple as I could possibly make it.
I love that. So sounds like you guys deal a lot in service businesses. Now I know
Mhm.
if anybody out there listens like Cody Sanchez, you strike me
Yeah,
as the male version of Cody Sanchez,
Cody lives
at
down the
least a
street
little
from me.
bit. Okay, yeah, that's awesome.
Mhm.
So kind of the same deal here. Are there types of businesses that you guys target? Is the service, the home service industry, is that what you target, or is it
Yeah,
totally deal by deal?
it's dependent. So for me, I do brick and mortar service businesses. You can do online businesses like you talk about. You can buy restaurants. I would not recommend doing that. So we stick away from restaurants, nightclubs, bars, hookah lounges, vape shops, tanning salons. We don't do any of that. Give us something that's boring, non-sexy. It's been up and running for 5 years. AI is not going to replace it, but AI could help it. That's what we're looking for. So we're looking for something like, also like Cody does a lot of trade specific stuff. For me, unless you have a partner that you're doing the operations with that is a plumber or an HVAC tech or someone like that, or you have somebody that's a partner there, I don't love it because you want to have somebody that's got like trench level experience there. So I'm buying stuff that's not like too technical, but just about anybody can do. So it doesn't require any special licensing or anything. So that's what I look for.
Gotcha. Okay, and I like that. That makes sense because like the plumbing, HVAC, electric, those are very technical skills. Whereas cleaning hood covers or lawn
Yeah,
care, like I used to do a lot of work in lawn care. Like it's either not, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to do it, and you can make
yeah,
incredible money when you do it right, and you do it better than the other guys and provide incredible customer experience. Like you're gonna blow everyone else out of the water. It's not that hard.
correct. Yeah, and
Yeah.
dude, it's easy to win out here. And so somebody's listening to this, and at this point, they may tune out and say, "Wow, Brian and Brian must be nice. I don't have those skill sets. I am XYZ in my job. I don't have the skills. I am not ready yet." And to which my reply would be, "You know how you know when you're actually ready? When you say you're not. That's how you know you're ready."
Boom.
Because think back to every single skill that you needed to learn in your life. You didn't really read a book or listen to a podcast to learn that skill. It was required by necessity. You didn't listen to a podcast and a motivational seminar to learn how to walk. You just got up and you tried it. And then you learned how to walk, to eat, to crawl, like to change a tire. Like most people are like, "Oh, I don't know how to change a tire." Until even if you learn how to change a tire, right, on paper, then all of a sudden you've got a flat on the side of the interstate. You learn how to change a tire really quick. So same thing goes with running a business. I could tell everybody to do their research, read 20 business books, read Traction, listen to my podcast, and then go buy a business. And that would be doing you a massive disservice. I would actually say the best way to do it is to know thyself, know where your weaknesses are, know where your strengths are. I'm not an operations guy. I'm never going to do it. So even in my own company, I hire people that are strong in that. And so I partner with my weaknesses. I don't improve my weaknesses. I buy them. I partner on them.
Yeah.
So you learn through
Wh-
doing.
Yeah. And that's the best marketing slogan, the best tagline ever created from Nike was just do
Just
it.
do it.
Like you can apply that to so much.
My favorite billboard from theirs is "Yesterday you said tomorrow."
Oh,
Yeah,
got him.
it's so good.
See? Like, but it's so true because I know when I was starting my business, there was the imposter syndrome, the I've got no skills, woe is me. Until I looked in the mirror and bashed my head against it and said, just go do something. Go learn this. Go figure out how to write a Facebook ad. And
Dude,
that will lead to the next thing, will lead to the
hiring,
next thing, will lead to the next thing. Yeah.
hiring. I don't know how to hire. Like, dude, I run $1 million of payroll now. I didn't know how to hire. Do I still know how to like lead? I know how to lead. I don't know how to manage. Working on it. So again, it's a skill that you are learning through necessity. I'm like, if I disappear from my business, does the business still run as well as it does with me in it? No. Bottleneck, something to work on. And you just do that for the rest of your life. It's okay.
Yeah.
But my thing I tell my team is I'm okay with hard work. Let's just make sure that we're working hard on the right things. So what you choose to work on is more important than the work itself.
Yeah. I love that. That is spot on. And then that meshes perfectly with getting comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
'Cause that's what life is. Once you've hit comfortable, something's wrong, right?
Yeah.
Like you make yourself uncomfortable. That's where the biggest growth happens.
Yeah, and every single person that's listening, if they're listening to this point, they're going to stick around for whatever we say. We could say freaking Donald Trump is purple, and they would believe it at this point. Nah, but in all seriousness, if somebody's sticking around at this point, there's been a common theme with this back half of the episode, which is there was no easy button where I just said, "Oh, I just created an Etsy shop and magically made $60,000 a month overnight." It doesn't work like that. This stuff is hard. It's really hard. But the thing is, you get to choose your hard. Working a job you hate for the next 45 years and taking 2 weeks of PTO and having 30% of your waking life available to raise a family, find a mate, be a father, be a mother, like have friends. That's hard, dude. Building a business is also hard, but you get to choose. Like being fit is hard. Being not fit is hard. Choose which one you pick. You get to choose your hard. It's one of my favorite quotes.
I love that. I love that. I can't remember where I heard that, but that's one of my favorite as well. And there's one I had a mentor who always said, think of yourself when you're old and gray and your time is at hand. What do you think will you look back on and have a regret with? And it makes you think where you're like, because I remember I asked myself that 8 years ago before I started my business, like when I'm old and gray and it's quitting time and I'm cashing out, what does my life look like and what did I regret? And I listed those things out, and it all pertained to my happiness based on what I did in order to make money to use as a tool to improve my life, my family's life, and do everything we could have possibly wanted to do. And I listed out those regrets. And I was like, now I need to reverse engineer how to make sure I don't live these out to be true. That the opposite needs to happen. And it was a catalyst point for me. So I'm glad you mentioned that.
Here's another fun fact. Money doesn't make you happy. Money doesn't buy happiness. It buys freedom. Key distinction there. Have you ever snowboarded?
I've skied many times. Not a
Okay,
snowboard.
I'm thinking about picking up skiing here, but I've got a quick story for the audience. Yeah, I've got a quick story, and it pertains, I promise. So I'm about to take you guys on a journey, and there's a punchline. So I've been snowboarding. There's actually 2 lessons here. First is I've been snowboarding for 15 years, right? Is what I say. I took 1 lesson when I was a kid. And since then, I've gone and snowboarded with that same lesson, that 1 day's worth of lesson for 15 years, once or twice a year. And so I said, I have 15 years of experience as a snowboarder. No, I do not. I have 1 day's worth of experience that I've repeated for 15 years. So first lesson of my snowboard story is don't let somebody else saying that they have so much more experience than you, bring you down. Because most people have 1 year's worth of experience repeated 20 times, not 20 years of experience. So that's my first lesson from snowboarding. My second lesson of snowboarding is anybody that's listening that is a snowboarder, there's 2 different ways you snowboard. There's hillside, toe side. So that's how you carve on a snowboard. In hillside, you're going back on your heels to stop it. And then toe side, you're able to go like kind of forward and face up the mountain instead of down the mountain. You need both hillside and toe side to navigate down the mountain and actually snowboard. For me, I was very heel side heavy. I did not know how to do a toe side turn. And so that's how I've been snowboarding for 15 years. And so as I was snowboarding, I had this instructor and he goes, "What is this?" He's like, "What is this snowboarding that you are doing?" He's like Argentinian guy. And he's like, What is this the nonsense that you're doing?" And I go, "Man, I don't know. I'm scared to do the toe side turn." And he goes, "This is not snowboarding. This is just skidding down a mountain." He goes, "This isn't snowboarding. What is this?" And so it was a cool life lesson for me. And the punchline is that everybody has got like this one side of life down. And that's probably like achievement, which is like, I'm going to make money. I'm going to do good in my job. I'm going to set goals. I'm going to accomplish goals. I'm going to work really hard and make money, right? That's the science of achievement. But then the toe side turn is the art of fulfillment. That's the happiness side. And 2 completely different skill sets, 2 completely different muscles to work. Like gratitude is a different muscle to work than money making. And people just think that they're correlated. And so a lot of people are just doing what I was doing, just skidding on their heels down the mountain and calling it snowboarding. That's not what it is. Like you need to learn how to carve and actually snowboard. And that's when you start living life to its fullest potential. So we've talked a lot about money now. And now I can tell you guys that it's not the answer. But you won't believe me until we get you rich. So Brian and Brian will get you rich first. And then we'll let you know how to actually get happy. But then you can at least like knock it off through process of elimination with a few $1 million in your bank account.
That's right. What a great analogy, man. I think that's perfect because I remember when I was learning how to ski, you gotta learn to carve, and I could
Hmm.
always go one way, or I could never catch an edge. And until
Hmm.
you do, you're not truly skiing, especially if you can't stop. You know, you're if you're pizza stopping the whole way,
Pe-
you're screwed.
peach and French fry, baby.
Yeah, yeah, it's no bueno. So you gotta get that figured out, and I love that. It's a perfect analogy for both sides of life, the professional side and
In the personal.
the family, the personal. That's a great way to put it. And I think we could go for another hour here, but I'm gonna have to let you go because you're a busy man. So we're gonna have to land the plane here. I think that's the perfect place to do it. Brian, this has been so awesome. Thank you. You brought a ton of energy to the MU Nation here, and I really appreciate it. I want to make sure that anybody out there listening, if they want to get a hold of you, if they're interested in Action Academy, what's the best way to get a hold of you to check out the Academy and, of course, get another plug in for your podcast? I want to make sure we get that out there.
Yeah, I would say the podcast, man. Go. I promise you, like we've got the dumbest business pitch in the world. We give it all away for free. It's on the podcast. Go listen to the podcast. If you enjoy listening to me every single day, then you'll be able to go through the podcast and find more. But we interview 2 millionaires every single week. We do 5 episodes a week, 3 solo shows, 2 millionaires. And it's a freaking blast, man. I've done it for 3 years and we've got some really cool people on there. Go listen to that. Let me just help you for free. And if you want to do more, you can do more. And then besides that, I'm on Instagram at Brian Luebben. You can just type my name in anywhere. I'm the least hireable person on the planet. If you type Google me, it's literally just how to quit your job. So,
Yeah.
oopsies.
Successfully unemployed, right?
Successfully unemployed. After a year, I realized, brother, there's no going back. So I better be good at this
Yep.
entrepreneur thing.
Yep. Once you burn the boats, man, that's the only way to do it. That's the only way to do it. Burn the boats and go after it.
Yes, sir.
All right. Awesome. Well, Brian, thank you so much for joining us, man. I really appreciate it. And best of luck to you at Action Academy.
Thank you, sir.